Okay, good morning. Are there any questions before I start? I have posted your solutions to the midterm exam, so you can certainly look at that. I have your graded exams, so don't go away after the class before you collect them. Okay. Any questions about the exam?
I have a question about homework.
Homework, yes, go ahead.
Can you talk about question 5?
Yes, yes, I got some email about that.
Understand.
Yeah. Well, yes. So problem 5, in fact, we are jumping into how to design, design architectures, and so that's kind of a brief intro to what will come later on in the class. So the question is asking you how. Okay, let's just take a look at the question here. Um, Okay, so what we are saying here is just imagine that there are 3 processing elements. So think about each one of these multiply accumulate as a processing element, as if it is computing something. And let me say that when I created this problem, it was inspired by what was known as this data bottleneck in one of the very early programmable DSPs, I think TMS 32310, where you really couldn't have multiple operands in the data bus. So that was the inspiration for creating this problem. So we are saying that all these 3 multipliers have access to one data coming from wherever the data is stored, SRAM or whatever. So the ideal solution would be if each of these 3 processing elements had access to its own data bus. That would be a different problem. So instead of that, we are saying that the 3 have access to only one data bus. Okay, so I tried to solve it actually just before coming to class, because it is a difficult problem, so and requires some thought. So what? Okay, let's get back to the paper here. Okay, so that's the data bus. So this is the solution now, which I am not going to give you now, but we'll post that after you turn in your homework. But you can see what I am trying to do. So think about each of these is a processing element, and each processing element has a multiply accumulate. So what we are multiplying here are these coefficients A0 through A6 are written here. So think about the first of all, think about 3 unfolding. I mean, that's kind of what we are trying to say, is that instead of thinking about the single equation of the 7-tap filter, think about unfolded program where we have 3 iterations being computed at same time. So y3k plus 1, y3k plus 2 are being computed at same time. And now think about the computation of y3k carried out by one processing element, 3k plus 1 carried out by another, and 3k plus 2 by another. So, when I show these 3 processing elements here, that is computing y3k, this is computing y3k plus 1, this is computing y3k plus 2. Okay. So, well, okay, I can give you some hints, but eventually you think about how to do that. So, let us say that y3k is executing these multiply add operations in clock cycle 0. So, first of all, this is a 7 tap filter. So, this PE will compute a new output every 7 clock cycles. Well, it takes 7 clock cycles to compute one filter output. So, let us say that y0 was computed in clock cycle 7, y3 will be computed in clock cycle 14, and y6 will be 21, and so on. And here y3k plus 1, so y1 would be available in clock cycle 8, 15, etc. Okay. So, so this mapping shows that the PE computing y3k plus 1 will begin this in clock cycle 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and the PE computing y3k plus 2 will compute these in clock cycles 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, etc. Okay. So, why do you think I am kind of staggering this by 1? So, this was x3k, so that is x3k minus 6, and this is x3k minus 7, 1 minus 6 is minus 5, and 2 minus 6 is minus 4. Okay. So, so the reason I am staggering this by 1 cycle is because the input data bus is same for all 3 PEs. So, that is the data available in certain clock cycle, well, clock cycle 0 in this case. In the next clock cycle we get x minus 5, and that is clock cycle 1. So, I can compute this in clock cycle 1, and then in next clock cycle we get x minus 4, and I begin that computation here. Okay. So, has anybody thought about this and gotten to a point beyond what I have explained? Okay. So, that is why I need to stagger those. So, when I compute these outputs, I clear the carry here. So, this is accumulating the previous sum and adding to the new multiplication output, but here when I actually it does not correspond exactly. Think about the best way to think about, if I redrew that, think about this add going to the left, this happens in clock cycle 0 and then 1, etc. So, in clock cycle 0 this input to the adder is reset to 0. So, we are computing 0 plus A6 times x3k minus 6. Okay, that is what that switch is resetting that to 0. Yeah.
Why do you put 4 delays?
Yes, there is a reason, and well, you know, that's why do I put 4 delays? Yes, that is that's a good question. And so, well, what I am showing here are because it is a 6 tap filter, is it 7 tap filter, each signal sample is a part of 7 outputs. So, for example, if I take x0, let us say this x3k, x0, if I just think k is 0. So, x0 is used to compute y0, a0 times x0 is part of y0, a1 times x0 is part of y1, and ultimately a6 times x0 is part of y6. So, any time I grab a data from the input bus, I need to make sure that same sample is available to be multiplied by all these 7 coefficients for 7 different outputs. That means that I simply cannot take the sample and multiply and be done, throw that away. Well, we can't do that because I need to hold that, and that is what these delays are doing. They are holding that sample until I do not need that anymore. Okay. So to give you a simple example, okay, I am writing down these time instances again. So, A0 times x0 is used by processing element 0 in clock cycle 6. In same clock cycle 6, we compute y1 in processing element 1, processing element 2. Then I need that x0 again by processing element 0 in clock cycle 10. Now, guess what? 10 minus 6 is 4. If it was input in clock cycle 6, I hold it for 4 cycles. It synchronizes in P0 and same with 10 and 10. Now, I need that again by P0 at clock cycle 14. So, that is why I need to save that for 8 clock cycles. 6 plus 8 is 14, and the patterns are slightly different. And so we are switching the input to the multiplier to the data bus in clock cycle 7L plus 6, 0 and 1, which are 6, 7, 8. These are repeating. So, this is 3 out of 7 cycles, and we are sampling the 4 delayed version 3 out of 7 cycles and the 8 delayed version in 1 cycle. For that PE2, for PE1, we are sampling the data from the input bus right away for 1 cycle, sampling 4 delayed version 3 cycles, and then 8 delayed version 2 cycles, and that corresponds to these 2 delays here. I need to hold that for, and then finally for the PE0, we sample this once, and then the 3 delayed version, 4 delayed version 3 out of 7 cycles, and the 8 delayed version 3 out of 7 cycles. So, okay, so this is kind of what the solution is. Okay, I don't necessarily think that I explained in a way that you fully understood, but ultimately you have to create a timing chart. So the most important thing in this class, when we are thinking about computing, we are trying to figure out a certain task, can be a multiplication, can be whatever. So, in this case our task is multiply add. Every time we are multiplying something, accumulating with to the previous sum. So, that multiply, accumulate, these are all tasks. Okay. And so, question that we are asking is which task is mapped to which processing element and is executed at what time instance, and that should be periodic. Everything is periodic. So also the periodicity means that the if you look at the input pattern here, I take x0, x1, x2, the sample number 0, 1, 2, and then so think about this. Every 7 clock cycles, these 3 processing elements are busy computing something all the time. These are utilized 100% of the time. Hardware utilization is 100% for all 3 PEs. So, after every 7 clock cycles, we have completed computing 3 outputs. So, for example, 7, 8, 9 clock cycle 7, 8, 9, we computed y0, y1, y2. Nothing happens for clock cycle 10, 11, 12 and 13. Then periodically after 7 units in clock cycle 14, 15 and 16, we get y3, y4, y5. Nothing happens in clock cycle 17, 18, 19, 20, and then in clock cycle 21, 22, 23. So, every 7 clock cycles because we are computing 3 outputs in parallel, we can process 3 inputs and compute 3 outputs. So in clock cycle 7, 8, 9 we compute 3 outputs, next 4 we do not output anything. Same way in clock cycle 6, 7, 8, 6, 7, 8 we feed x0, x1, x2, we feed 0 samples, nothing, these are dummy, I mean nothing is input. And in clock cycle 7, after 7 cycles we feed 3 and then dummy, and then after 7 more. So out of every 7 cycles we are processing 3 samples and we are computing 3 output samples. And the hardware is utilized 100% of the time. There is a lot going on, and there is a lot going on. So, but this is a good practice, I suppose, to think about how to design hardware architectures for computing simple functions. We aren't computing something very complex. Well, essentially that's what is the process of understanding computing, what task is executed at what time by which processing element. Okay, so is that at least clearer now? This should be enough hint for you to think more. Any other questions? Okay, so I will hand this out when we post solutions. You try to think about it more. I've given you enough hint that you can think about more. The exam, I have posted the solution and you can look at that. The statistics are also posted. Okay, so I don't want to say, but I just feel that each time after exam I like to give some feedback. So what I would say that if I just had to assign grades based on these statistics, I would say that anything between 90 and 100 would be A, 80 to 89 would be A minus, 70 to 79 would be B plus, and 60 to 69 would be B. So I just give that as a feedback. This is not your grade. This is only 25% of the grade, and there are 75% of the grade devoted to other things. But based on, if you just ask me what would be your grade if you just took this exam and I had to post your grade today without saying anything else, that's what would be the grade. So this would be A grade, this would be A minus, this would be B plus, and this would be B. Okay, so that's just for your feedback, but these are not grades assigned to the class. Okay, let me say that the exam definitely was not trivial, which it wasn't, but some of you had a little difficulty following that this is interleaved by factor 2, and you tried to prove equivalence otherwise, which you cannot. So if you simply look at the number of delays, 1 plus 2, 3, 4 and 6, there are 12 delays. So each delay replaced by 2 delays. So that's simple solution to that. Replace each delay by 2 delays and retime across the 4 cut sets shown here. What I intended to see, my goal here was to see if you can flip these switch instances if there are delay elements. So in the first part, this switch periodicity is 2. These are even or odd. So because we are adding delays at 2 cut sets here, so in the first part I am adding a delay here and a delay here, okay, and then I added a delay here, okay. Here. So because these are even numbers, these switches can stay the same. But I also should point out that if you chose to place the pipelining cut set not here but here, that 3 would be odd, and then I would flip these switch instances. If you are not doing that, I am taking points off, because that's the purpose of understanding. If you pipeline or retime circuits and delay the computation, then we have to alter the switching instances. Many of you placed delay here, that was fine, but here again, here I'm forcing you to put delay here and then see if you flipped it or not. But some of you were little smarter and you tried to place one cut set here and one cut set here, so you skipped that, and instead of using one cut set you used 2, well, which is fine. As long as your solution is correct, you don't lose points. This was I took off 5 points or so if you are not using this so-called transpose form. Many of you instead of placing there's a delays like that, so that's what I intend to see. But many of you, for example, here you know that this signal is delayed by 2 cycles, so you are putting 2 delays here, and that's kind of what I don't intend to see. Okay, I mean that's, you are supposed to say that okay, this is delayed by 2 cycles, this is delayed by 3 cycles, so then I delay this once, and then 2 goes to the right, and then this is delayed by 1, so 1 stays here and then 1 more. So you are supposed to work that out. I think that when I assigned at least one homework problem like this, you are supposed to have practiced that. But let me also say that just because the grader didn't take off points for wrong solutions doesn't mean I wouldn't when I grade exams. The exams will be graded by me because I want to see what the class is doing. The other thing is, many of you try to create cut sets, but if you got the right solution, then the critical path, okay, here the critical path was 1 multiplied 2 add in one case. So, so the best thing is you place a pipelining cut set here, and then these 2 delays stay, but this one I move that to the inputs of the node, so then I have delay and delay here, that path is broken. So, and many of you did that, right? And for the third part, just put this here, so that this is 7 and 3, and 3 plus 4 is, so 7 is one part, 3 plus 4 is 7, and that's the same. Okay, so the tricky part here, the tricky part in this problem was making sure, and many of you didn't do this right. So if we want to maintain the same sample period, and if the clock period is a t 14, and the clock period for the 3 parallel should be 3t. Some of you, most of you, put Ta is equal to Tc. That is not correct. 3 times Ta is equal to Tc. So that's one trick that, and if you lost points if you don't do that right. The second tricky part is the charging capacitance. So the charging capacitance here was proportional to multiply add, and here was proportional to half a multiply add. So if this was C charge, this was C charge by 2, and at least this part more of you got right than that part, but few of you put this both as C charge. Okay, I didn't expect you to solve for the beta, but if you after the exam, this is the red parts are done after the exam. So by the way, those of you who saw me solving the exam right here while you were taking the exam, I solved this whole thing here while you were taking the exam. I don't remember, but I think it took me 40 minutes or so. But I have an advantage. I've created these questions. So don't think that I took 40 minutes. Means you should, yeah, I mean, I guess if I can still solve it with 40, then I give you twice the time. So this one, I think some of you made a few mistakes. So there were 2 loops with 3 delays each. So because of that, we don't really capture. So everything is -1, everything is -1. Some of you computed wrongly, but so the only information on the loops are in L3, because that's when the loops are completed. If I had some loop with 2 delays and some loop with 3, I would get some. That loop had 2 delays, I would get some non-zero entry in the diagonal element in L2. But we only have each loop has 3 delays, so only non-zero are here. And if we interleave, then there would be 2 delays per delay. So now the new one would have 6 delays in every loop. And if you compute L1 through L8, then L6 would contain the equivalent elements here. Okay. Everything else would be -1. L1 through L8 except L6 would contain -1 in the diagonal elements. Okay, that's kind of a brief review of the exam. Okay, any other questions before I continue with new content? Okay, so last class I was talking about how to unfold switches. You can you can read the book, and I talked briefly about that. There is a lot of there are many homeworks giving you practice with those things, but I want to revisit one concept that I actually didn't complete last week while I was talking about maybe not last week, maybe the week before Thursday. So so I was talking about the relationship between retiming and unfolding. So in particular, I was trying to say that if we retime with the constraint, if we change the retiming constraint such that if for d u be greater than c, wr u to be that's the retiming of the path is w plus rv minus ru, that should be greater than or equal to j instead of 1. So instead of 1 in the typical retiming, if I change that to j, then I can retime with that constraint and then unfold to satisfy the clock period c. And to prove that, I didn't complete the proof, but to prove that so to prove that, I tried to show that if r prime, I think the best way to understand this would be to give you a problem, and I might give you a problem next time. So so we are trying to prove that if the retiming variables after unfolding are r prime ui, then summed over all I from 0 to j minus 1 is the equivalent r of the original flow graph, and that's what we are trying to show. And okay. Okay, so we are satisfying the two inequalities. So for the unfolded program, this is the feasibility constraint, and if we add this over all I, as you know, summed over all I of this quantity is equal to w, and we saw that from the property of the unfolding, that the number of delays after unfolding add up over all I to w. So that is the constraint for feasibility in the original flow graph. For the r prime variables, this is retimed and unfolded, unfolded and retimed. So if you unfold and then retime, these would be the constraints for target clock period C, that's the -1. If you sum these over all I, then that sum is going to be summed over all I becomes RU, summed over all I becomes RV, summed over this becomes W, adding 1 j times becomes -j. So that's kind of well, that completes the proof. So again, to really fully grasp what we are saying, it may be useful to so there are certainly problems in the book. So the problem number 8 is a good example of that. So it says you have this flow graph, unfold with unfolding factor 2, then retime to minimize clock period, and then part B says let the retiming determined in part A was R prime, then define R A equal to R prime A0 plus R prime A1 because unfolding factor is 2. Similarly, RB, RC, RD, show that retiming using that R on this and then unfolding satisfies the same thing. Okay, so that's kind of one example to prove that. But again, as I say, you can't really. The best way to understand more is to work out a problem. So either I may give you a problem next homework or work out problem 8. Okay, so I think what I went through in the beginning of the class is a good introduction to the folding transformation, which is the reverse of unfolding. So what we have seen is that if we have an edge from say A to B, let's say with 1 delay, and if I unfold that by factor 3, then we get A0 to be 1, A1 to be 2, and A2 to be 3, which is same as B0 with 1 delay. So that's unfolding transformation. So so initially I began asking the question, well, I mean, if I can unfold that, is it possible then to fold this back to the original flow graph? So each A now has been replaced by 3 A nodes. Now if I ask the question, can I take this flow graph and say that fold this to something like that? So that's kind of that was the motivation. So in some sense, if you think about, you take a number 3 and you take the square of that number, you get 9, and so you begin asking, okay, I can take the square, but if I take the square root, then can I get that number back? Well, it so happens that if you take the square root, you get 3 numbers back, 3 and -3. So same way that if we start with a flow graph and unfold that, we get a unique solution, and if we fold that back, we get many possible solutions, just like we get 2 solutions here. If I was taking raised to the power 10 and then take the 10th root, I would get 10 different solutions. So 10 different numbers will have the same 10th root, same 10th power. Okay, so that's the motivation for folding, and it so happens that the problem that I just described is in fact that's formally. So if I do this process in a formal way, that would really be called folding, and you would get the circuit I just showed here. So it should be possible to get to this circuit from this flow graph if I stated that those would be the time instances at which they would be executed. So this multiply add, this multiply add, this and so on are mapped to one PE, a processing element, and this multiply add and so on. And so we would define what are known as 3 folding sets, where each folding set is mapped to a processing element. So, if I use this as an example, let's say that I define so this is 2. Let's define this as A02, A01, A00, A12, A11, A10, A22, A21, 20, 32, 31, 30, and so on. So A62, 61, and 60. Okay, then we would say that we would define 3 folding sets. So, so I can say, well, let me write this part here. So let's say that we define one folding set S1. So we know that the periodicity is 7. Each processing element computes 7 operations and then repeats itself. So S1, let's call S0, S1, S2. S0 is computing Y3K. So let's say that's so here we would say that the folding set is A60. So A60 is the multiply by A60 plus that add. Similarly, A50 and that add, let's call that cap A50. So A60, A50, and so on, 40, 30, 20, 10, 00. And that's what is called a folding set. And when I define a folding set, that's actually an ordered set. And we will see what that word means. That means there is at what order they are placed as meaning, and this is called, so the periodicity is 7, we will call n is 7, n is the folding factor, and these are, so when I say ordered sets, these are 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that means this multiply add A60 is executed at time partition 0. So this time partition 0 means clock cycles 0, 7, 14, etc. So I know the periodicity is 7, so that's really saying that that's time instance 7L. If it was 7L plus 1, that's time partition 1, and that would be 7L plus 1. So periodically the processing element P is 0, which is this one here, is computing this in clock cycle 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that's done. We have computed Y0, then it computes Y3. So it computes Y3, K is 1, it computes Y3. So it will start with same time partition 0, which is clock cycle 7, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Okay, it's okay. So that's kind of, that's S0. S1, so when I define S1, where is time, what is being computed at time partition 0? So this is 1. So at time partition 0, that is A0, 1. So that's the multiplication plus whatever else was here. So as I mentioned at the beginning, the add is going that way, and that's okay because of associativity. So S1 is equal to A 0 1 A 0 1, and then I come back to for 1 I come back to A 6 1. Well, okay, then you just keep writing 5 1 4 1 3 1 2 1 1 1. I already have 0 1, and these would be time partitions 0 1 2 3 4 5 6 10. S2 PE2, that is computing Y3K plus 2, and that's computing this in clock cycle 2, so that A62 is computed in clock cycle 2, A52 42 32 22. So that's clock cycle 2 3 4 5 6, and then 7 is 1 2 1 2. So 1 2 is 7, and 0 2 is 8. So even though this is clock cycle 8, so we take that as time partition 1, time partition 1. So you divide 8 by 7, periodicity is 7. So n is called the folding factor, which describes the number of operations mapped to the same hardware unit, hardware functional unit, or processing element, either way. Okay, n is the folding factor. So these S0, S1, S2 are ordered sets. So these are ordered sets, also known as folding sets. So these are ordered folding sets. So S0, S1, S2 describe folding sets, and these are ordered folding sets. Okay, I am still trying to introduce terminologies so that we can formally derive the folding algorithm. Okay, well, so even though I described the folding was inspired by undoing the process of unfolding, in fact it is a very powerful and general technique for mapping algorithm operations to data flow architectures in general. So, so if we are going to be designing time multiplexed circuits, and I say time multiplexed because we are multiplexing all these 7 operations in time to the same functional unit, and same here time multiplexing these and these to same functional units. So folding transformation is a general way to design time multiplexed data path for a specified folding set. So for any given folding set and given data flow graph, so this is, think of this as the algorithm data flow graph, and given folding set, we can derive the hardware architecture, which would be that solution here. So we can derive this solution here by applying the folding transformation to this data flow graph using these marked folding sets. Okay, that's the purpose of folding and what it tries to do. So it tries to design the time multiplexed data paths for given data flow graph and folding sets. Okay. Okay, so how do we, just like the unfolding algorithm, how do we derive a formal folding algorithm? Excuse me. So let's say that I have an edge. This is the data flow graph, which we can think of as algorithm data flow graph. Okay, so we have same u to v with w delays. Okay, we are going to define some terminologies. So let's say that the so in this particular case, this multiply add together, this multiply add is a type of U node. Think about this U node. U node is this multiply add together, because that's what the hardware is doing. So when we think about the hardware circuit, the hardware data path is the multiply accumulator. So that's what this is, multiply accumulate data path. Okay. So the type U is mapped to hardware functional unit HU. Okay. The element type V is mapped to hardware element HV. So for example, if I thought of each multiply as separate type, each add is separate type, these were separate data paths, and U as a multiplication operation, that would go to multiplication data path. If V was an add, that would go to an adder data path. Okay, I also define these lower cases U and V as folding sets, folding order. So what are these notations U and V? So for example, the folding order for the node A40 is 2, and that means if I know the periodicity 7, that means that is executed at time some 7L plus 2. The folding order for the node A41 is 3, 0, 1, 2, 3. That's what I mean by these numbers U and V. N is the folding factor. Okay, so now I am ready to say that the nth iteration of node U is executed at time n times L plus lowercase u. Think about that. So think about what I am saying. If this folding order is U, that means the so for example, if this folding order A40 is 2, then that node will be executed at time 2, 9, 16, 23, etc. So iteration number 0 is executed at time 2. Iteration number 1 will be executed at time 1. When I talk about iteration number 0, that means computing, let's see, A40 is here, okay, A40. So that's executing at 2. That's iteration number 0, means computing Y0. At clock cycle 9, that will be part of the computation of Y, in this case Y3. Next iteration means K is equal to 1. So okay, so okay, so nth iteration of node U is executed at time n times L, so that's n times L plus the folding order U. Nth iteration of V is similarly, I should say, at time U by the functional unit HU is executed at n times L plus V at by HV. Okay, by HV. Well, okay, this one is not. Okay. Now that W delay says that UL, the Lth iteration of UL is a precedence for VL plus W. That means the result of Lth iteration of U is used to compute L plus Wth iteration of node V. That's what that W delays in the edge shows. Excuse me. So if Lth iteration of V is executed at NL plus V, what time instance will L plus Wth iteration of node V be computed? So replace L by L plus W. So L plus Wth iteration of V is executed at n times L plus W plus folding order V. Any question about that? Okay. All right. So now we know that the Lth iteration of node U is executed at time n L plus U. So I get that result. I get the result of computing this node U at time n times L plus U. I need to use that result at this time. And that says that I need to store, so every edge from U to V needs to be stored. So I call that the folded delays. So this is the number of delays in the folded data flow graph. Just like the algorithm data flow graph, think about the architecture also as an architecture data flow graph. So think about this as the architecture data flow graph, and think about this as the algorithm data flow graph. So the number of delays in the folded data flow graph, well, it should be from HU to HV, but that's okay. So that U to V is equal to the time I need to use that result, n times L plus W plus V. Okay, I forgot to say something else about the model. Okay. Minus, and that result was computed at n times L plus U plus pipelining level of U. And I forgot to say that because that is the pipelining depth or pipelining level of HU. So if HU is pipelined by 3 stages and I start computing that at clock cycle 10, then the result is available at 13. So even though I begin computing the Lth iteration at n times L plus U, if that hardware functional unit HU is pipelined by PU stages, that result becomes available at NL plus U plus the pipelining depth PU. And I need to hold that result for the time of consumption minus the time of production. So that's the time at which we have that available at the output of the hardware functional unit. That's the time I consume that. And if I subtract, the n times L and L cancel out, and we finally get is equal to the folding factor n times the number of delays W plus the folding order of the destination node minus the folding order of the source node minus the pipelining depth of the source hardware functional unit. And that's really the key thing here is this quantity is independent of L. So that's a blessing. That's a blessing, because if for some reason this quantity was dependent on the iteration index L, then as L goes to infinity, at some point we would require infinite buffer size, which would be impractical. So buffer size in computations can't be infinity. So we need to use finite buffer length. So so that's great. That's great, because that's what we want. We want the number of folded delays to be independent of L, and that's what it is. Okay. All right. Any questions so far? Okay. So we can now say that for that node U to V, for that node U to V, with W delays, that's an algorithm data flow graph that maps to, so I have certain hardware functional unit HU and I have certain functional unit HV. So U is executed by HU, V is executed by HV, and I am going to mark this as PU to say that this is pipelined by PU stages, and that means that result, whenever I compute something, that's available after PU clock cycles. And that says that I need to hold that result Okay, so so the input to HV, that switch is connected to this output. So this is the number of folded delays. So that's DF U to V. That's the number of delays by which we must hold that value. So whatever we are computing here is held for that many cycles and is sampled, because the folding order of node V is V, we sample that at n times L plus V. Okay, so that's kind of, so this edge maps to that edge in the hardware data flow graph or hardware architecture. So in some sense we have completed a lot about folding. I mean, that's kind of folding would be complete if all DF U to V are greater than or equal to 0, we are done. So that's saying that if, so the number of folded delays cannot be a negative number. Well, you can't have negative delays because that's a prediction operation. That's not a, that's a non-causal operation. Anything that is non-causal is not implementable. So so if all these delays, if I start with some folding set and if all these delays are greater than or equal to 0, then we can just redraw this architecture by mapping from every edge to connections like this. Compute the number of delays and compute this switch instances and so on. Okay. So however, for a lot of applications, that number of delays is not, sometimes is going to be negative. So what do we need to do so that if these number of delays are negative, we need to do something to make sure that we can still change the flow graph, the algorithm data flow graph, such that these numbers will become non-negative. Okay. This is this is probably a good time to just tell you an example and then we will continue with okay, so this is kind of an example here. So let me just show you this example. So this is a biquad filter. If you look at this biquad filter, we have marked these numbers here S1 bar 3. That means this belongs to the set S1 and its folding order is 3. S1 2, same set, folding order 2. Any other add? S1 1, S1 0. So that says that these 4 adders marked node number 1, 2, 3 and 4 excuse me, are executed by one adder that's mapped to set S1, and these are executed at these time instances 0, 1, 2 and 3. Okay. So these multipliers marked node number 5, 6, 7 and 8 are mapped to a folding set called S2, and if you look at their folding orders 0, 1, 2, 3, that means node 5 is executed at time. By the way, the periodicity is 4, so there are 4 multiplication operations mapped to one multiplier, and 4 adders are mapped to 4 additions are mapped to one adder. So these are mapped to one multiplier. Okay. Now so if you think about how we got to from the traditional biquad, how I got to this structure, what do you think is going on here? Well, I can see. So remember, initially there was a delay element here. So in the biquad we had one delay in the inner loop, 2 delays in the outer loop, and so okay, that's the biquad. So we try to take a retiming cut set like that. So we remove, so these edges are going, that's going into and that's going out. So these 2 edges are going outside to the upside of the cut set. This is going down the cut set. Remove that and add a delay here and add a delay here. And if you take another cut set like that, pipelining cut set, this is a feed forward cut set, and place these delays here. So by retiming across that cut set and pipelining across that cut set, then the biquad becomes this structure here. Okay. So these are the 3 pipelining 3 delays for the pipelining cut set. That's gone, and we put delay here and here, and that's essentially, that's how we got this. Now if you compute this number of folded delays that I just described, for example df 1 to 2, so from adder 1 to addition 1 to addition 2, node 1 to node 2 is n, which is the folding factor 4, 4 additions mapped to 1 adder, 4 multiplications mapped to 1 multiplier, times the number of delays from this to this is 1, minus, so the formula says n times w minus, so the formula that I am using here is n, so this is n times w minus pu plus I think, yeah, plus v minus u. So that's the pattern of the formula I am using. So n times w n is 4, number of delays is 1. I assumed in this example that if you look at this number 1 and number 2, so the pipelining depth of the adder is 1, pipelining depth of the multiplier is 2. So, essentially I have assumed the multiplier takes 2 units of time and adder takes 1 unit of time. So, in your homeworks that we have been doing so far, when I say multiply takes 10 units of time, adder takes 4 units of time, think as if the multiplier has 10 well, I mean, if I think about that, it's okay. So, I mean, I can think about it in different ways. I can say, okay, it's pipelined by 10 stages, the adder is pipelined by 4 stages. If the clock period is 5, if the clock period is 5, then the adder takes 1 cycle, multiplier takes 10 is 2 cycles, which would be what we are doing here. If the clock is 4, then the adder takes 1 clock cycle, the multiply 10 takes 3 clock cycles. So, that would be 3 stages. P would be 3 for clock period of 4. So, you have to take the actual latency, and by the way, when I say the number of pipelining stages, so 10 by 4 is 2.5, but there is nothing called a 2.5 pipelining stages. So, you take that as 3. Okay, n times W minus P, and this is the pipelining of the source computation, which is that add, plus destination node ordering folding order 1 minus source node folding order 3, and that is 1. Let us take just one more example, maybe node 1 to node 6. Well, maybe let us take node 6 to node 4, 6 to 4, okay, 6 to 4, that is 6 to 4, okay, 6 to 4, that is multiply to add. So, 4 times 1 delay minus pipelining depth of the source node is multiply, that is 2 pipeline stages for the multiply, plus folding order of the destination node 0 minus the folding order is 2, and that is 0. And as you can see, all these numbers are non-negative. So, we are really done, and just take these numbers, number of delays, and put them into the data path that looks like this. So, this is the multiply, this is pipelined by 2 stages, we have 2 delays here, this whole thing is in a box, that is the pipelined multiplier, this is the adder with 1 delay, that is the 1 stage pipelined adder, and then you take the number of delays and then place the switching instances correctly. Do that at home, you will see that is the correct result. Okay. Now, well, I kind of cheated because this is not the real backward. What I showed you is to give you an example that in fact, if the folded delays are all non-negative, then we are done. But how did I get to this? Well, you get to that by modifying. So, if you take the original backward, then those numbers, some of them would be negative. And so we need to, so clearly as you can see, this is a pipelined and retimed version of the original backward. So, we have to go through a process. If some folded delays df are negative, then retime for folding. So, we spent a long time understanding retiming, and in that case the retiming was for reducing critical path. But now, just as I have done here the backward, so any given program or any given data flow graph can be pipelined and or retimed such that the number of folded delays will be greater than or equal to 0. Sometimes that may not be possible, and that means that particular specified folding set is not feasible. How will you know that? Well, if we go through the retiming for folding and apply the path algorithm, there will not be a solution. A solution does not exist. That is because a negative cycle would exist in the constraint graph. So, if it so happens that a solution does not exist to the specified folding set, then the retiming problem will return false and it can't give a solution. So, that means no retiming formulation is possible to pipeline or retime the circuit to guarantee all folded delays to be non-negative. Okay, so how do I? So retiming, as you recall, retiming has two constraints. So the very first constraint is feasibility. So every so we had that constraint here WR. So in the retimed case, WR after retiming should be greater than or equal to 0, which means that W plus R V minus R U should be greater than or equal to 0, or R U minus R V should be less than or equal to W U to V. Okay, so that's same. So the first constraint, feasibility constraint, is exactly same. In the critical path constraint, for a given path with delay greater than C, we guaranteed WR to be greater than or equal to 1. But that's not what we are doing now. So the folding constraint, the so-called folding constraint, so the folding constraint basically says that the number of delays after folding should be this quantity, after retiming should be greater than or equal to 0. So DFR, that means after retiming, U to V, which is N times W after retiming plus V minus U minus PU should be greater than or equal to 0. And that can be written as N times W plus RV minus RU plus V minus U minus PU, and that is then NW plus V minus U minus PU plus N times RV minus RU should be greater than or equal to 0. Now this quantity here is nothing but the original folded delays DF. So that says that DF U to V should be greater than or equal to N times R, take this to the other side, RU minus RV, which means that RU minus RV should be less than or equal to DFU to be divided by N. Okay, believe it or not, we have derived the second constraint called the folding constraint. So if we solve the retiming problem with the feasibility constraint for each and every edge and this constraint for each and every edge, then we are done. So we can either get a solution that will guarantee that the number of folded delays after retiming are all non-negative, or we will return false. That means the specified folding set is not feasible. It is not possible to design a data path that will meet the specified folding set constraints. Okay, so sometimes this could be a fraction. For example, if DF is let's say 2 and N is 3, if this number is 2, this number is 3, for example. Okay, so what does that mean? So what do we do? So R is always an integer. R is an integer. So how do I make this an integer? If this is 2 and this is 3, do I take this as 0 or 1? Should I put it to 0 or 1? Some quantity is less than 2/3. What happens if it is 1? Well, that's not, 1 is not more less than 2/3. So we take the floor function of that quantity to force the right hand side to be an integer as the R variables are integers. So essentially I have completed the folding algorithm, but we will talk more about that, but that's what the folding algorithm is in its simple form. Okay, so if you take the original bicode and write down the original folded delays and the retiming constraints and solve that, then we would get back that retimed bicode, retimed and pipelined bicode. Okay, so we'll stop here today. So see you next class, and I have your graded exams, so don't go away. I was looking for the cap of the red pen, but I'm sure it is not lost.
Between that
Between these?
yeah, no, that
First.
这个方就是说出了一下，这是这是
Thank you.
6个90以上的，6个80以上的。
Okay, Chirag has come.
还有这种是哪些？看里面是哪些？
Zicheng Zheng. Zhangqi